Hey, is this thing on? Hello? Hit it again. I think it's on now. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, where each week, Doc will drag some colorful characters out of the woods to talk trail and Type 2 fun. If you're aspiring hiker trash, or if you're just looking to understand the hiker trash in your life, look no further. So lace up those boots, gnaw on some jerky, and settle into your 20-mile pace as we fire up the podcast from somewhere deep in the backcountry. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags, hiker trash, and of course, good smelling day hikers. I'm Doc, and this is Hiker Trash Radio. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't like what we're doing, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest, a section hiker and weekend warrior who is looking to coordinate his first thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, Josh Goebel. How's it going, Josh?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Hey, one of the things we did not cover prior to starting recording was the pronunciation of your last name. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay, very good.
It's pretty rare, actually.
All right. So I'm 1 for 1. There we go.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Hey, in all your time out on the trails, have you picked up a trail name?
I sure have. A couple, actually.
Okay. What are they?
Yeah, so now I guess my main trail name I go by is Inferno.
And why is that?
So I actually got it last year. I was doing a section hike. Me and my buddies were going through the Smokies and in March. So it's like thru hiker prime season, and I was hanging out with a bunch of thru hikers. I would get to all the shelters kind of, I guess, earlier than everyone else, and I'd collect a bunch of firewood. I love building fires and, getting that community going around a fire. So I always had a good fire going by the time all the thru hikers got around, and I was sitting around the fire one night, and one of the thru hikers said, like, "Hey, we should call you Inferno. Like, it's really nice and warm, And I was like, you know what? That's a good name. I like it. I'll go by it."
And you said you had a couple of names. Did somebody try and stick you with one earlier?
So I guess we'll get to this eventually, but on my attempted thru hike back in 2015, someone did try to nickname me or trail name me Achilles, because that was the one thing that was really bugging me on my body, and I kind of just rolled with it at the time because I didn't have a trail name. I didn't really know the whole deal, and we'll get to that part.
Got it. Yeah, that'd be a tough one to be stuck with, especially if it referred to a particular injury or nagging pain that you had. I mean, to be reminded of that every time somebody called you by name, that'd be no fun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, we go by trail names here on the podcast whenever possible. So I will be referring to you as Inferno occasionally, and you can call me Doc.
I love it.
All right. Hey, Inferno, have you had a chance to listen to the podcast before?
Yeah, I've listened to a bunch of them.
Okay. Any favorite guests that you've heard?
I'm going to shout out Matt Pretzel Mason.
Matt Mason. What a guy, right?
Yeah, he's awesome. I love that guy. I met him back when he was working at Mountain Crossings at mile 30 on the AT. So I don't even know if he remembers me, but we go way back.
Nice. All right. Hey, I only ask because I want to make sure that you are aware of a segment that we do towards the end of each episode called the Hiking Hack. And that's where I will turn to you and ask you to share some trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. Yeah,
super familiar with that.
Okay, fantastic. Then you're probably super familiar with this one as well.
Trailblazers Toolkit.
That's right. It's time for the Trailblazers Toolkit, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. Inferno, I love to talk about gear on the podcast, and I love to hear about the most important item in my guest's adventure gear. So if you were preparing for your next adventure and I was the one providing you with all your gear, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? Make sure to give me all the specifics on that piece of gear and tell me why you've got to have it out there. This could be any type of item. It could be gear, it could be apparel, it could be a luxury item. So Inferno, what is that item in your toolkit?
So I've actually thought a lot about this. This was the one piece of this podcast that I've been really adamant about. It is my pillow.
Pillow. That is the must
That is
out there.
That is it. I could go with just about any pack or sleep setup or tent, whatever, stove. Sure, I can adapt, but my pillow, man, I need to sleep good.
Now, is it your pillow from home off of your bed?
Pretty much. I actually do sleep with it. It's on my bed right now.
No way.
But well, it's a my pillow, travel pillow.
Okay.
It weighs about 8 ounces, so it's not your standard, blow up pillow. I tried the blow up pillows. They either deflate on me or they're just not comfortable, not right for me. So I tried to bring out my travel pillow one night, and man, I loved this. Like, it was such a good night's sleep. And ever since then, I've had buddies make fun of me, laugh at me. I even got one of my buddies to start bringing one. So that's it. My pillow. It's called My Pillow as the brand.
Got it. Yes, I understand. Yeah. You are fully committed. I mean, you not 100%. Only on the trail, but also it's on your bed right now.
Yeah, I can go get it if you want to see it.
Well, maybe we'll do a show and tell for segment 2.
Perfect.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, I'd love to keep talking about gear, and help us do that, we've got...
It's the hiking pole.
The hiking pole, and that's pole spelled with 2 L's, like a survey, not like the things you have in your hands out there on the trail. This is a 7-question survey that's going to help me give you a score on the sanity scale from 1 to 100, with 1 being completely insane and 100 being completely sane. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. If I were to ask your family and friends where they would score Josh on the sanity scale, where do you think they put you?
I would say probably between 50 and 60.
Okay. So just
according to your scale, yeah.
Just north of the midpoint there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so in your everyday life, are you a bit a little bit wonky?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Okay.
I like to have fun.
Okay. Like to have fun. Good. All right. First question then. When you're out there on the trail, do you have trekking poles or no trekking poles?
I do have trekking poles.
Okay. And it's always good to give me some explanation for your answer, so it helped me calibrate my score.
So I've had the same trekking poles since 2015 when I first really got into backpacking. Me and my buddy were out on the trail just hanging out and whatnot, and there was actually a guy who only had 3 fingers, and he said the best thing that you're going to ever do is have trekking poles. And ever since then, me and my buddy both had them. We were always told that if you're hiking with somebody without trekking poles, you're not going to be hiking with them for long. So we got trekking poles. I just find it easier on the downhills. Half the time I find myself just carrying them, but I've never not had them on the trail, so it's kind of just become routine.
And I think it's a given that if a 3-fingered hiker gives you advice, yeah, you should probably take that advice.
Exactly.
Yeah. That guy has seen some things.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there any explanation as to why he only had 3 fingers?
You know what? He probably told us that it was so long ago, I just don't remember.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What's on your feet out there? Boots or trail runners?
Trail runners. Trail runners for sure. I actually do a little bit of trail running. I've never been a boot guy. It just, when I started out with some trail runners. Someone recommended. I actually started with road runner shoes, and that did not turn out well. That's kind of why I got the nickname or the trail name Achilles. Not enough support, I guess, in the road running shoes. So I switched to the trail runners and with them ever since.
Got it. And what brand of shoes are you wearing now?
I wear Ultra.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been in them for quite a while. I've had a bunch of different pairs. Right now I have the Lone Peak 6s. I used to not like the Lone Peak at all. They were just too bulky and block shaped, didn't fit my foot well, but I randomly was at REI and I tried on I had a weird feeling. I was like, I'm just going to try on the Lone Peaks, the new ones, see what happens. And I liked them. My mom bought them for me for Christmas, and that's what I'm in right now.
Nice. Now you say you do some trail running. What kind of, is it just for exercise, or do you enter any events?
I've run a couple of 50Ks, some shorter stuff right now. Just been busy, not enough time to train for the long stuff. But yeah.
Were they 50K trail races or?
Yeah, absolutely. Always running on trails. Roads are okay, I guess, but the real reason I really like to be out on trail is because hiking's my main thing that I love the most. Can't always just take a week off or a month off and go hike. So I like to get as much trail experience or trail time in as I can, and trail running is what I can get.
Now, for our listeners out there in the United States who are struggling with the metric system, a 50K is 30 miles.
Yeah, 30, between 30 and 33 generally, because they can, it's 31, I guess, technically, but you know what I mean? The trails are never exact.
Yeah, so it's like
that's the best.
It's 4 or 5 miles longer than a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the best part about it, is it's never exact. You're never just going out there for a time. You're going out there to have fun and enjoy the day, enjoy the trail.
Yeah. Now, Josh, as a regular listener, I kind of go off on tangents during the hiking poll. Sometimes these questions will not factor into your final score in the hiking poll, but I always like to explore interesting topics out there. So what did you ever run a marathon?
I have actually never run a marathon race.
Okay. You've run marathon distances and beyond, but it's never been officially a marathon. It's been the ultras.
Exactly.
And anything over 26.2 is considered an ultra.
That's correct.
Okay. And so where in your life did you decide, you know what? I just really feel like running a very long distance. Let's enter some ultras. How did that come to pass?
So originally I have a good friend from college who done a little bit of hiking with and stuff, but he's just a freak athlete, he could not train barely at all and then go run a 100-mile race. Like, he's a beast. His name's Anthony Nasser. Shout out to Ant. But he started doing them. I crewed him at actually this race here. If you can see on my shirt, the Georgia Death Race.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 75-mile race here in North Georgia. It's a killer. I tried to race it once, dropped out at mile 20. But he started doing it. We would crew him. We would go hang out. It's just a really fun environment. Anytime on trail is a good time, and he's a really good guy, good friend. So he said, "Hey, you should try to run one." I was like, "No, I can't do that." And he goes, "Yeah, anybody can run an ultra." So I trained a little bit here and there and run a couple 50Ks. That's as far as the longest I've got so far.
Fantastic. Now, with you being in Georgia and in the South and being an ultra runner, have you discovered the wonderful, wacky thing that is the Barkley Marathons?
A little bit. Anthony actually ran not the main Barkley Marathon, but the Fall Classic, I think, where they do like one loop of it. I've checked it out here and there, but not gotten really super into it.
Oh man, the people who run the full Barkley or attempt to run the full Barkley are a different breed of folks.
Absolutely.
They're out there. I mean, it is a fascination of mine. The two documentaries out there that you can find on this, the main ones, I think the titles say it all about the Barkley. The one is called The Race That Eats Its Young, and the other one is called Where Dreams Go to Die.
I think I've seen or heard of Where Dreams Go to Die. I'm going to have to go back and watch both of them.
Yes. Yeah. You have to check those out. It is time well spent. There are so many little idiosyncrasies and quirks and just weird stuff about the creator of the race and the race itself. It's just fascinating.
Absolutely.
Okay. Back to the poll. Question number 3. When it comes to your shelter out there, are you a tent guy, tarp, hammock, bivvy, or hey, let's just cowboy camp?
So East Coast, I'm on the AT quite a bit, especially here in Georgia. I like to stay in the shelters, actually. That's my main go-to. If there's not room in the shelter, or if I know of a good camp spot, I'm in my tent. I have a Nemo Hornet. That's a close second to my pillow. Like, I love my tent, but I've had the Nemo for a long time. I love that thing. So tent would be my main thing if I'm not staying in a shelter.
Okay, and tell me a little about the shelters, because I have no shelter experience other than talking to guests who have been in them. When you're in a shelter, what does the inside of the shelter look like?
Yeah, it's pretty much a three-sided, 3 walls and a floor, roof. It's pretty basic shelter. Some of them have 2 stories. Those are the nice ones, the really nice ones in Georgia. I've stayed in one in Virginia, Maine. We stayed in a bunch on my attempted thru hike. But yeah, pretty much it's very simple: 3 walls and a floor, roof, of wood, made of wood.
Are there beds?
No, it's just a floor.
It's just a floor. There's only a floor. You just lay your sleep bag down and there you go.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. All right. I was imagining some kind of structure coming off of the sides, there are like bunk beds, multiple levels.
In a couple of them, there is a second level where you can like climb a ladder up to, but it's just like a ladder to another floor.
Got it.
You just throw your sleeping pad down there.
All right.
Yeah, get ready for bed.
Okay. Question number 4: when it comes to sleeping, do you use a sleeping bag or a quilt?
Quilt.
Okay.
100% quilt. It's been a little bit, I guess, a recent transition in the past year or so, maybe 2 years. The quilt is half a sleeping bag, so it's half as light, I guess, right?
That's right. That's a theory.
Yeah.
And
but just as warm.
Is that why you went to the quilt? Is because it is half the weight, but all the warmth?
Yeah. So the way it was explained to me is that if you have an insulated sleeping pad, that's going to keep beneath you warm enough. And then when you're sleeping on down, it's compressed. Those feathers are compressed, so they're not going to retain that warmth anyway. So you're carrying that weight, but you're not able to, you're not getting the most out of it at night. So if you guys have your quilt over top of you and your, insulated sleeping pad beneath you, call it a day.
Okay, makes sense. Question number 5: when it comes to food, do you have a stove? Do you cold soak or you go stoveless?
Stove.
Okay.
Yeah, simple. This is a nice little stove with a cook pot. I used to have a jet boil. I went for like a little lighter option. But I've toyed with a bunch of different stoves and stuff. I've toyed with not using a stove, and I just enjoy a warm dinner.
Yeah. My theory is that if you're hiking with other people who do have stoves, there's no way you can cold soak or go stoveless. Just because I get hot meal envy at the end of the day if other people are cooking their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's just some ramen and tuna, that's my go-to.
I was going to ask, is that your go-to? I've had a lot of ramen and tuna in my time.
Yep. The soy sauce flavored tuna. I'm sorry, soy sauce flavored ramen and lemon pepper tuna with a packet of Texas Pete hot sauce.
That's a delicacy right there.
Oh yeah.
Top notch. All right. Question number 6: is life better above or below the tree line?
I always get excited because on the East Coast, we don't get a lot of above the tree line. So I always get excited when I get to, watch a sunset with a clear view and not stuck down in the trees. So I'm going to say above.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Okay. And question number 7: what's more important, pack weight or luxury items?
That's a real tough one. That's a tough one. I do have a pretty light pack, but I do carry some luxury items like my pillow. I like to say, I kind of coined the phrase with my friends, comfort-lite. I'm going to go with luxury items, but like a 55-45 split.
55-45. That's highly precise.
Yeah, it's close. It's just, I like my comfort items more than I like a super light pack.
Got it. So if we were to dig through your bag, what kind of comfort items other than your pillow would we find?
I do carry a chair. Yeah, the Helinox Zero.
I fully support that, but you have to whisper that out there on the trail because there's a lot of people who kind of look down their nose at that.
No way, man. Like, I'm all about the chair life. And I've had people, like you said, like, lift their nose at me or whatever. Like, my buddies used to make fun of me again. Like, I'm like, bro, you got to check out this chair. My buddy actually, on one of our last trips last year, someone had left the chair at a shelter. So my buddy, he tried it, and he was like, dude, this is kind of great. And I was like, I'm telling you, man.
After days and weeks and months of sitting on rocks and logs, and if you're on the West Coast, if you're on the PCT, sitting on your bear canister with nothing to lean back against, just being pushed over all the time. I mean, a chair is life changing.
That's what does it. I used to carry just like a sit pad or whatever, and it was fine. It was great. But then once I got a chair, I had, an REI gift card, and I was like, I'll try out a chair. I tried this thing, man. I got to lean back next to the fire, and I was just relaxing. Everybody's hunched over. I'm like, no, man, I'm good. I'm chilling.
Okay. Now, Inferno, I'm going to do something I've never done before on the hiking pole. You ready? Congratulations. You're the first.
Okay.
The very first. I need some more information about you. So I'm throwing in a bonus question.
Okay.
All right. Question number 8. And it's not a yes or a no or a multiple choice type question. This is an open-ended question. So you can kind of go free range with it. I want you to tell me, when you're out on the trail, what are your top 3 topics of conversation on the trail? What are you talking about out there?
Oh, man. That's tough. That's a good one. Depends on who I'm with, I guess. It's funny because some of my friends tell me, like, when I'm at home or when I'm just around our friends, I can be pretty reserved or quiet. But like when I'm out there on trail, like they look at me and they're like, "Who is this guy? Like this is a whole new person." Like I can just talk about anything to anyone, really.
Yeah, Josh unleashed out there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I like to learn about why people are hiking, like what their background is. If I'm like I like to, get around through hiker season and, the springtime and see what people are out there for, where they're from. I guess simple stuff like that. Just, talk about gear, people's backgrounds. I love hearing about people's backgrounds and like where they're from, like what brought them to. I'm going to talk about the AT a lot because that's my main experience with hiking. But yeah, I guess
that's 2. I've got background. I've got gear.
Gear.
What is the third topic of conversation out there?
So this is going to be kind of crazy, I guess. Not crazy, but if anybody knows anything about soccer, that's like my other thing in life. Like soccer is everything: Premier League, Bundesliga, MLS, high school, college, World Cup. Soccer is my other life.
The beautiful game.
That's right. Joga bonita.
Okay. All right. Hey, Josh, sit back for a little bit. I've got to do some math here. We're going to take your answers and work them through the Hiker Trash radio algorithm, which means I got to carry the 2 here. I've got to divide by √3. We're going to multiply by pi. And I come up with a score of 72. So you're a bit saner than what your friends and family think, but I don't know you that well yet. So I mean, there's a chance the score can go down.
So I know I've listened. I've listened a bunch of times, and I know that if you thru hiked, you get what is it, a 30-point deduction?
It depends how far you've thru hiked. I mean, if it's just a regular long American trail like the AT, it's an automatic 25-point deduction. If you get calendar year Triple Crown, that's a 40-point deduction. I mean, it is kind of a scale.
For sure. So, I mean, it's not that I haven't tried to, that I haven't wanted to. It's just, life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. But before we get to that, let's back up a little bit and let's talk about your background, where you grew up. Sounds like you played soccer in high school, I'm going to guess. And how did you get involved in the hiking cult?
So, when I'm originally from upstate New York. I came down to school in Georgia to play soccer, and
how old? High school or college?
No, I played college down here in Georgia.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I left New York when I was 18, and kind of wanted to get away from home, get away from the cold weather and whatnot. But yeah, so then one of the
now soccer is a cult all to itself. Right? That's a different cult. I grew up with 3 soccer players. I shouldn't say I grew up. My 3 kids were all in soccer. They're, started out in AYSO and then travel soccer, club soccer, and all that life. I think I've spent more weekends in my life on the side of a soccer field somewhere in California, Arizona or Nevada than I have anywhere else.
Isn't it great?
Oh, it's awesome. When you're in the middle of it, especially as a parent, when you're in the middle of it and you're dragging yourself and your family, and sometimes you have to split up. One parent's with one kid in one. Yeah. There was a time when all 3 kids were in different states on the same day. Yep. But when you're in the middle of it and you're dragging yourself and your kids around to these events, you're thinking, holy cow, this is just grueling. And you kind of don't appreciate it. But when it's over, when the kids are grown and there's no more sitting on the side of soccer fields, I can tell you what, I miss it. I realized how good I had it.
Oh yeah. I've been blessed to have some awesome parents, of the kids that I've coached. Most recently, actually, I'm going to throw this out here too. I coached, Chamblee High School, Georgia 5A state champs.
Hey, congratulations.
Appreciate you. On the girls' side, we actually have a girl going to the World Cup this summer.
Wow.
To play with Jamaica. Yeah, she's a beast.
Wow. Now, there is a distinct difference in coaching styles when you're working with girls versus boys.
Oh, 100%. I like coaching girls 1,000 times better.
Yes?
Oh, yeah. They really buy into the team aspect of it. I feel like, even when I played, the guys all thought they were the best player in the world. They weren't. They still do. They still think they're so great and everything. Girls, I feel like, can buy into the team aspect and the team aspect of it and really just, dig deep and play for the team.
Now, what college did you play for?
She is. Did I play for?
Did you play for?
Yeah, I played for a small school down here in Georgia, Point University.
Okay. And what position did you play?
I was a winger.
Okay.
So I was running up and down the sideline all day.
Right or left didn't make a difference?
Either one.
Either one. Are you left-footed or right-footed?
Right-footed.
Okay.
But I guess I can use both a little bit here and there.
All right. And what age group? So you coached high school to the championship. You've got one going to the World Cup this summer. And do you coach youth soccer as well?
I was coaching at a club down here in Atlanta. I stopped coaching them to kind of focus on the high school, and then actually I'm looking at some collegiate stuff here, hopefully in the future. Okay.
Well, good luck on that. I know they have rules in California where club coaches can't coach high school, or they can't. Yeah, that's why they can't coach kids that had previously played for them as youth athletes, that if they didn't live in the area of the high school.
Yep, that's partly why I stopped coaching at the club.
Got it. Okay. All right. Now I jumped in and interrupted you because of my fascination and love for the beautiful game as well. But go ahead and tell me this, how you got involved in thru hiking. And do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have. I'm the oldest of 3. I'm 34 at the time of this recording. My sister's 24. My brother's 20.
Oh, wow. So there's a bit of a gap between you.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. And so as you were heading off to school down in Georgia at age 18, what were they? They were like, what, 10 and 8?
8 and
6?
8 and 4.
8 and 4. See, I was an English teacher, so yeah, the math is always a struggle.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's all good.
So, I mean, how close of a bond do you have now with them?
So actually, we're all really close.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately, my dad passed away this past year. Kind of brought us a lot closer. We were pretty close, but it brought us, even closer.
Sorry to hear that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. All right. So thru hiking.
Yeah. So back to the dorm dad, we would call him Bob. He was a section hiker at the AT. He had hiked 1,000 plus miles on the AT just in his section hikes over the summer when he wasn't working at the school. And he kind of was the first one. He was real big on, what's that movie in that book?
Wild?
A Walk
in the Woods. A Walk in the Woods or Wild?
No, not Walk in the Woods. Wild.
Okay.
Christopher McCandless, right?
Oh no, that Christopher McCandless, that was not Wild, and that was not.
No, Wild was Cheryl Strayed.
That's right. And people are yelling at the radio right now at us
100%.
Because, like, how do you not know what the name of the book Christopher McCandless was about?
It's going to bug me until we figure it out.
Well, you know what? As we're doing this, go ahead and keep talking. I am going to use the Google, and we'll make sure that we have this for everybody.
I love the Google. Yeah. So yes. Bob was the one who kind of just showed, like, I was the first one who really showed me about the AT, and a bunch of my buddies here, and we would go. He would talk about hiking and everything. Like, we'd be super intrigued about how that was going every summer. We'd come back to school, and I was like, "Where'd you hike this summer, Bob?" And he would tell us about, Virginia, and then up into, West Virginia, Maryland, Northeast, and all that stuff. So he's the one who first introduced it.
Into the wild.
Into the wild.
Into the wild.
I knew
you're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And spoiler alert for anybody out there who doesn't know the Christopher McCandless story or hasn't read the book or watched the movie. Go ahead and cover your ears right now, because I'm gonna relay the first time that I saw the movie. And, I had no idea. I had no background information about this. It was just on. We were watching it. And the ending is really a bummer.
Yeah, it is. Super big bummer. But it's actually funny because he was either he was from around here in Atlanta, like he was trying to go to Emory College, which is right down the road here. So it's kind of cool. It all circles back.
Okay. And so he introduced you to that film or that book, and
yeah,
that's how you got interested in getting out there and getting after it.
Yeah. And then, one day my buddy, I saw him post on Facebook or something, Facebook back in the day. One of my other friends was like, "Hey, I'm just really tired of work and this and that." And I was like, "Hey, let's just go through hike the AT, on a whim, whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Okay." And then, we tried.
Okay. And we'll get to that story. Now, you threw out there something about Facebook. Is that the way of the younger generation making fun of the older generation? I kind of make references to MySpace every once in a while when I'm poking fun at the older generation.
Oh, I was on MySpace. MySpace was like in middle school for me. Maybe early high school.
All right. Do you still maintain your MySpace page?
I don't know if you can anymore. Can you?
I don't know.
You can, I can't. I don't know my password.
Now, your younger siblings, did you say they're both brothers or brother and sister?
I have my sister is 24. My brother's 20.
Okay. And are they also involved in the soccer and or the outdoor world?
My sister played high school soccer, but she wasn't into it like I was.
Okay.
And she loves to go hiking and do some running here and there with me. Like, we've been on a couple backpacking trips, short stuff, and she really enjoys it. My brother has been camping with me here and there. But he's really into the culinary arts. He's actually about to go back up to New York and go to college for culinary school.
Nice. Do you see your sister taking some time and doing the AT with you?
Man, I would love her to do that. I would love for her to take the time after she's about to graduate college and go do that, but I don't know if she'll do it. Okay.
Now, you mentioned that your buddy was a section hiker, done a lot of the AT, maybe 1,000 miles of it. For our listeners out there who are just tuning in and they just picked this podcast on a whim and they have no idea what hiking is all about, why don't you explain to them the difference between day hiking, section hiking, and through hiking?
Yeah, well, through hiking, end to end in one go. Some people say it has to be within a year, like a calendar year, whatnot. I guess that can make sense because all the trails that I'm familiar with really are feasible to do within a year. So, you take that one trail, AT, we'll say 2,190 miles. If you want to go end to end, 5, 6, 7 months, that's a through hike. Section hike can be, most of my section hikes right now, when I can get time off work, is about a week long. We do between 70 and 100 miles in a week. Day hike, you go up, you park your car, hike to a spot, hike back to your car, drive home.
Yeah. And I think that is a very cool thing about hiking is it can be as simple or as intense as you want to make it.
100%.
You can go on a day hike, right? And enjoy it and get all the benefit of being outdoors for that time period. And if you really want to go to the extreme, you can do all 3 American long trails in 1 calendar year, or even more.
Quadzilla.
That's right. I just talked to Carl Stanfield, aka Professor or Prof, as he's
I love Professor.
He started out. He embarked last year trying to set the record for the most miles hiked in a calendar year. He fell a little bit short, but I think he is the only person to do all 3 American long trails border to border. So in calendar, he did Key West to Canadian
Florida.
Yep. Tip of Florida to Canada for the AT. So he did the international AT, and then he did CDT and the PCT, which of course goes from Mexico to Canada.
Right.
So, and there's one extreme or the other, and anywhere in between.
You know, I always would say I don't really like day hiking, and then recently I realized I love day hiking as long as I can camp in between day hikes.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
It's really simple. I mean, it's the same concepts. I mean, maybe day hikers, people who are carrying everything they're not carrying everything on their back. I mean,
right.
There's that, but it is, you know, you're walking for a day as a section hiker or as a thru hiker, and then you're making camp and you're getting up and you're doing it over again. And you just repeat that enough times to get as far as you need to go.
For sure. That's basically what I'm doing with my section right now on the AT.
Okay. Now, have you also heard of a LASH?
Yes, that was actually my cousin's trail name. When him and my uncle were hiking way back before I even thought about hiking the AT. They were hiking from Bear Mountain in New York and going southbound to Georgia. And I'm sorry, my uncle's name was LASHer and my cousin's name was DASHer. Long ass section hiker and dumb ass section hiker. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
I like that. Now you mentioned your job. If you get a week away from your job, let's talk about what you're doing to pay the bills.
Yeah. So I guess it was in about 2018. I wasn't really happy at my desk job. I wanted to do something more meaningful, make a little bit more money, you know, pay the bills. And I went back to school, became a nurse. That's what I do now. I work in the operating room. I love it. It can be stressful, it can be tiring, but I love it.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that. What was your desk job that you gave up?
So I worked for a couple of different internet service providers down here in Atlanta. Google Fiber was one of them. It was a pretty fun job, I guess, at some points, but you know, I got tired of people complaining about their internet being slow when, you know, they just I don't know. It's
typically when people call an internet service provider, they're not in a good mood.
No, never. Yeah, I don't know how many good reviews any internet service provider gets, but yeah. I wore a bunch of different hats there: account management, customer service, you name it, I did it.
Nice. Now, my oldest daughter is a labor and delivery nurse. And
nice.
She started out on the night shift and has since moved into the day shift and is doing fantastic, doing a great job, really enjoys it. My other daughter's boyfriend, whom she's been dating for a number of years now, he is currently in nursing school. And
love it.
I don't think he wants to go into labor and delivery, but I think he's looking at emergency medicine or operating room type situations. So.
Yeah. So it's funny because when I was in nursing school, all of my classmates and teachers were always like, "You're going to be an emergency room nurse." And I said, "Why?" And they're like, "Because you're always so calm, no matter the situation. Always under pressure. You're just always so chill, calm. Seem like you just know what you're doing, get things done, never stressed about it." Deep down, I know I was stressed, but you know, you got to do the job. But then when I found out about the operating room, man, I fell in love. Like I will never work another unit. Operating room is for me.
Wow. And those are good skills that transfer over to thru hiking.
Oh yeah.
Right. You can find yourself in a variety of situations that, you know, a lot of people would just lose their cool and panic. And if you have that ability to remain calm and think it through and problem solve, you're better off.
Yeah, for sure. And don't tell my boss, but I may or may not have some skin glue in my backpack in case something happens when I'm hiking.
It used to be stitches when I was a kid. Everybody gets stitches. Now you just get glued up.
Yeah, the glue is amazing.
Yeah. Now, can you share with us, without revealing too much information, confidential information, what is the gnarliest surgery that you've been witness to?
Oof. I like doing the eye cases. The eyes are, yeah, it's weird. Maybe that just brought my sanity scale down a little bit.
You're in the 60s now. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The eye cases I like. I saw a guy wasn't wearing eye protection when he was hammering something. Piece of the nail flung up, got stuck in his eye. Emergency case. Doctor brought him in. Had to go in there, create another hole, find the hole where it went in, I guess, and then make it a little bit bigger because he couldn't find the exact angle that the piece of the nail went in at. It was pretty gnarly trying to get that piece of the nail out of the eyeball.
Wow. I am wearing sunglasses whenever I have a hammer in my hand from now on.
Oh, always. I don't mess with the eyes. Eye protection, 100%.
Definitely. All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from the advertisers, pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to get into what we have been alluding to all along the way, and that is your multiple attempts at doing the AT and your upcoming trip next year. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
And welcome back. We were talking to Josh Goebel, aka Inferno, and for sure not Achilles.
Yeah, that's right.
Inferno. That's right. Okay. Now let's get to the AT. So 2015, is this when you asked your buddy, hey, let's do the AT, and to your surprise, he said yes?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay.
I guess it was 2014 we had that conversation because we started hiking, we started planning and then getting our hike ready for, we were going southbound. So we started in June 2015.
Okay. And other than reading the book Into the Wild, what other preparation did you do leading up to this?
I actually read the book Appalachian Trials. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Zach Badger Davis. Love that book. Went on approximately 3 miles of shakedown hike. And
a 3-mile shakeout hike before your 2,190-mile through hike.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess you could say I like to wing it.
That's an interesting approach.
I did learn a lot on that 3-mile shakedown hike, like not to take a bladder for your water, because I didn't screw on the lid properly, and I was like, "What is leak? Why am I so wet down here?" And I was like, I open up my pack and I see that all my water had spilled out all over all my stuff.
Yeah, I think anybody who's done some hiking somewhere along the way has had this dripping sensation behind them, and they're like, "Well, okay, something's not right in the pack."
Oh yeah,
yeah. All right. So, what's your buddy's name? Is it Anthony?
No. So this is actually my buddy Brandon.
Brandon. Okay.
Trail name Double Tap.
Double Tap. Okay, so Double Tap, and it's not Inferno at this point. We're going to refer to you as Inferno. Double Tap and Inferno. You set off. Are you doing a northbound or southbound?
So we were going southbound. We started in Maine, Mount Katahdin, June 1st.
Okay, and what was the inspiration for going southbound? Because most hikes, most through hikes go northbound. On that.
Part of it was the timing. Just worked better to start in June rather than your traditional like March, April. And part of it was us thinking we were hot stuff and we could do whatever we wanted to. And, it's more intense to go southbound. So we're going to do that. Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing.
Turn the volume all the way up. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay.
0 to 100 real quick.
Okay. So in terms of your expectations of what it was going to be all about and then the actual reality of it, I mean, how did those first few weeks go?
It was not exactly what I expected, but some aspects of it were exactly what I expected. I love that your phrase kind of on this podcast is embrace the suck, because, we were like 2 days into it and we were hating life. Our packs were way too heavy and we were trying to go way too far on each day. And Brandon was just like, or sorry, Double Tap was just like, we just got to embrace the suck. So when I first heard you say that on this podcast, I was like, this is my guy.
And so, I mean, there is a big factor in leaning into being uncomfortable, learning to be uncomfortable and just deal with that and just accept that as a way of life out there that enables people to persist and just keep going.
Yeah. They say never quit on a bad day. We had a lot of bad days that month we were out there in Maine, and I had a bunch of bad days because prior to me starting this hike, my fiance had said, I'm not sure we're supposed to get married. And I was like, oh, well, that changes a lot of stuff in the next couple of months. But we didn't quit on a bad day. We quit on actually one of my favorite days on the AT out there on trail in a trail town. So, we got through it. We made the decision we needed to make, and, it worked out.
Okay. Before we get to that decision and what happened, you kind of just glossed right over that whole statement about the fiance saying, hey, I'm not sure we're supposed to get married. Did she say this to you before you left for the hike?
Yeah, like 2 days before.
And you still went on the hike?
So a little bit of a background. She was actually on an internship in the Dominican Republic for April, May, and June. And I was going to start my thru hike in June, and then, thru hike, and then come back, and everything was going to be fine and dandy and great. And then when she was down in the Dominican Republic, stuff just, we were apart, so we had a little bit less communication. And she just was like questioning stuff because we weren't together. And she was like, I'm going to come back and you're going to continue to be gone. So I was like, I'm just not sure if it's the right move right now. And we were on the phone. We talked every couple of days, maybe on the phone. And I was out walking my dog in the road, and she told me that, and my legs went numb. I felt sick to my stomach, and I was like, mind blown. Like, what is happening right now? And I questioned, like, should I even go on this hike? And I was like, then I thought, long story short, I was like, she's not coming back till July. I'll at least go out for a month and try it, see what happens. I guess you can say it's a good thing my Achilles was pretty rough, and I had another excuse or another reason to get off trail. But we're married now. We have a 3-year-old and one on the way. So.
All right. So it worked out. It
did.
Okay. Now, take us through. You said that you showed up with pretty heavy packs, and it was quite a few bad days there at the beginning. What were some, just for the edification, for the education of our listeners, what are some of the rookie mistakes you made on that first hike that you have vowed never to make again?
Carrying books was one of them. I carried a BioLite stove, which is a stove that's a really cool concept, but you'd use dry wood to get a fire going inside the stove, and then it would use some energy to make the fire more efficient and cook. And the thing was just heavy. It was like 4 or 5 pounds. Carrying too much weight. We tried to go, we were both runners and everything. So we're like, oh yeah, we can go 18, 20 miles a day hiking. That's no problem. Bad move. One more thing is when we got back down from Katahdin, at the shelter and whatnot, right there at the base, I blew up my sleeping pad, was getting ready for bed and everything. And I was like, why is my pad like so deflated? I hadn't even checked it or anything. And I found a hole in it that night. So, make sure you check in your stuff, your gear before you go out on a hike.
So the 3-mile shakedown hike how much in advance of your actual hike was that?
It was probably like 2 or 3 weeks out in advance. Okay. And that was just me trying to get used to carrying something when I'm hiking.
Yeah. Do you still carry a blow up pad, or do you use a closed?
No, I do use the blow up pad. I
Okay.
still, it's a Nemo tensor. I love it. I got the insulated one. It's fantastic. Would never, that would be another, I have a lot of close seconds to my pillow, but you know, I like to sleep. I like to sleep well.
Now, the Nemo tensor, is that the one that sounds like a potato chip bag whenever you move on it?
I don't get it. I don't understand why people think that. I have never had any issues with my tensor being loud.
Okay.
So I'm going to fight that tooth and nail.
Okay. All right. I had a buddy, I'm not sure if it was a Nemo tensor, but he had some sleeping pad that it was noisier than heck. It got to the point where I would wait to see where he set up his tent before I set up my tent. And I would set up my tent on the opposite side as far away as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So take us through those last couple of days when you realized that you were not going to be able to finish, and what led to the you guys calling it.
I think after we decided to call it, we had hiked we were planning on getting down to Andover, Maine, which is just over 200 miles from Katahdin. And we were like, hey, that's the next like big town, trail town. That is a good stopping point. At the time, my cousin was in school down in Bangor. And I lied. He was in school in Portland, Maine. And so I was like, hey, Tyson, do you think you could come pick us up? And he was like, yeah, where are you at? I was like, we're going to be in Andover on this day. And he goes, I can't that day. Can you hang out one more day? So we're like, sure, we have this budget for a full through hike. We'll just hang out in Andover, drink some beer and eat lunch and hang out with other through hikers that are coming through. So, but leading up to it, we had met so many cool people that we just hung out with as much as we could to make those memories with the people. Because, there's your summits that you see, there's your sunsets, sunrises, your lakes and everything, but nothing beats the people on the 18.
Right. And what were some of the coolest trail names you ran into out there?
Oh, I actually named quite a few people, which I was surprised I didn't get like a real trail name that was creative. But I named the guy Homer, partially because he was an idiot, like Homer Simpson. But also, this guy never shut up. Like, he would just talk and talk and talk. And I said one day, I was like, "Man, you have more stories than the Iliad and the Odyssey." And he was like, "What's that?" So I was like, Homer is the name for you.
That's like some shade right there. I mean, you told him it was about Homer, the author of the Odyssey and the Iliad, but it was more like Homer Simpson.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Nice. Hulk was a cool guy who we were trying to get some firewood going, and I just saw him lift this big rock and just throw it down to try to split this log, and I was like, Hulk smash. I was like, no, Hulk stuck. And then his buddy that he was hiking with, those were some goofy characters. They were carrying quinoa for food. I was like, there's some lighter options than quinoa. And he was like, I don't know, it's what we had. It tastes good. I'm like, all right, cool. And then one day he was cooking it, and he was just saying, like, on the day of quinoa in the month of couscous, like talking goofy. And I was like, what are you, like a rabbi or something? And he goes, rabbi? Trail name? And I was like, yes.
Done.
So yeah, done. Yep.
What was it that took you off the trail? It was your Achilles. What because of the shoes you were wearing?
Yeah, so I was wearing some Adidas road running shoes. Mm-hmm. So my Achilles, I don't know, maybe it was just tendonitis, but it hurt to walk. Like, I would wake up in the morning and it would take me 2 miles before I could walk without a little bit of pain and, 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen. And then also, getting back to Rebecca, getting back home. Yeah. Mostly the Achilles. Mostly Rebecca. I don't know. I say mostly Rebecca. Because I would have, the trail's always going to be there. Yeah. But
now, what is your
might not be.
The trail's always going to be, it's a good point. What if Rebecca hadn't said what she said and you were out there and you're thinking you do the long haul, the whole thing, and your Achilles hurt like it did? What would you say to people who would think, you know what, I should probably just, push on through the pain. It'll get better eventually.
I would say take some time off. Take a couple days to start, see what happens, stretch it, ice it, take the ibuprofen. If it's not good after a couple of days, take a couple more days, week, 2 weeks. Then if it's really not improving, it might be more serious than you're thinking. Try to lighten up your pack, do less miles, warm up a little bit in the morning. There's a lot that can be done about, injuries, human body stuff. But, mentally, I feel like it was more mental than it was physical for me.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. I think that many times people will adopt this tough guy attitude that I'm just going to push through it, and I'll get my walking legs eventually. And what they end up doing is they end up hurting themselves and taking themselves off the trail for much longer, and maybe not even be able to get back on the trail that season, have to come back the following season. So I think that's great advice, Josh. Yeah,
for sure.
All right. So 2015 did not work out in terms of the trail. It did work out with Rebecca as
yeah, absolutely.
So that's a good story there. Your next attempt at the AT was 5 years later, correct?
Close to it.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I was in nursing school, and then it was but I think I graduated nursing school in 2020 in December. And then I was thinking, like, towards the end of nursing school, I was like, hey, maybe I instead of jumping straight into a nursing job, this might be a good time to go through hike. And then when I come back, start working, take care of the family and stuff. And then we found out we had a little baby on the way.
Now, did Rebecca tell you this 2 days before your hike was to begin?
Not this time. No. I had a little bit more time.
How close were you to the hike when you got this news?
So I was planning on hiking in spring of 21, and we found out, I guess it was summer of 2020, or a little bit earlier than summer 2020. So it was the funny thing is, it was like pretty soon after I was like, hey babe, let's think about me doing a thru hike. And she was like, she's all for me thru hiking. Like, she wants me to do it, and super supportive. I love her, and she loves me, and she wants me to do what I love. And I love that about her. And she was just like, hey, I have a feeling I might be pregnant. And I was like, nah, whatever. No big deal. And it was funny because one of her best friends at the same time was having the same feeling. So they took a test together, and it was a friend of another buddy who had thru hiked back in 2017. They both took a test, and Rebecca was pregnant and her friend wasn't. So we told my other buddy who thru hiked, who was like helping me prepare, planning everything. And I was like, hey, babe, it was my another buddy, Michael. I was like, hey, Michael, we have some news. We have another little thru hiker on the way, and one less here. So, kind of funny story.
Now, what was the due date?
She was due Christmas Day of my daughter, Lissy. She was due December 25th, 2020.
Okay.
And she was born January 4th, 21.
Okay. So you're planning your thru hike for 21. If her due date was sometime later in 2021, I was going to say you should have just gone for it, right? And get back before.
Oh, yeah. No, she was
speed hike it.
We were, I'm not trying to do that Carl Meltzer stuff, man. I'm not. I want to enjoy it. I learned my lesson the first time. Try not to go too fast.
Right. Yeah. But if you have a little one that's already been born before your hike, it would be a little bit, it'd probably be some hard feelings from Rebecca if you take off for 5-6 months and do the hike. Yeah. I can understand that.
Yep.
All right. But in 2022, you did get out and do some hiking on a section hike of the AT.
So I've done a bunch of sections, like from, Springer Mountain to, one gap in Georgia to the next gap to the next gap. Didn't actually do the full section from Springer to the Smokies. I've done those sections. But in 22, me and my buddies were trying to do our next section, which was the Smokies, or a little bit like through the Smokies and a little bit past. I think that's what the one you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. And did everything go as planned?
When does it go as planned on trail?
That's right. We can plan all we want, and then day 2, the plan is shifted.
Yep. So that was the hike that I got my trail name on, Inferno, that we had talked about previously. Me and my buddy Ben were about almost halfway through. We were right to Newfound Gap in the Smokies. Like, we started at Fontana Dam and we were going all the way up through whatever it is, I-40 right there on the AT, Standing Bear Shelter, or Standing Bear Hostel. Halfway through the Smokies is Newfound Gap. And that's where another one of my buddies was going to meet us, have our resupply, and then join us for the second half of the Smokies. So the night before that, we found out their Newfound Gap Road that goes from Cherokee to Gatlinburg through the Smokies was closed. So we're like, how is Joseph going to meet us up here? We found out there was some fires in the area and there was a major storm coming through. And I had talked to some thru hikers that we made friends with. They said that the winds were up to like 90 miles per hour that night after we got off. So luckily, the Rangers let my buddy Joseph drive up to Newfound Gap, pick us up, and then we drove back into Cherokee and, got some food and some beer and whatnot, and then decided to stay in Cherokee and go to the casino. That was a fun trip.
Rather than brave the 90-mile-an-hour winds in your tent or in a shelter?
Yeah, so we were going to stay in the shelter. That was right there. But we also were like, hey, let's not take up spots for these thru hikers. There's a bunch of people out here who don't have another option. So we decided we're going to go down to the casino, lose some money. We hooked up the thru hikers with, our gear, our food for the second half, and let them take it, because we're just like, we'll go buy food down at the casino. You guys have fun. Luckily, everybody was safe and good in the shelter, but they said nobody slept that night in the shelter. It was wild.
That had to be a wild night. Was it a profitable night for you at the casino?
Not me. It was for my other two buddies, though.
All right.
So they paid for breakfast the next day.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about Standing Indian Loop. What is that?
So Standing Indian Loop is it's on the AT. It's about 25 miles. It's just north of Georgia, so right when you get into North Carolina. You start at Standing Indian Campground, hike a little side trail up to the AT, start hiking one direction. I guess it'd be southbound on the AT the way we always do it. So you stay at Albert Mountain Fire Tower. Beautiful views from up there, 360-degree views, sunset, sunrise. We get a fire going.
People swear by the fire towers.
Dude, I love the fire towers. This one's always locked, though.
Mm.
They lock it. There was one time a couple summers ago I was doing it. I've done the loop 5 or 6 times now. And there was one time I was up there when the lock was open. So me and my buddy, pushed it open and pushed up the door and stayed up there that night. Man, that was crazy, because you would think it'd be windy and cold and whatever, but it was nice and warm and toasty in there. I didn't even use my sleeping bag or my quilt. So then after Albert Mountain, you keep going southbound on the AT, and about 13, 14 miles later, you get to Standing Indian Mountain, which used to be really overgrown and not much of a view, but there was forest fires a couple of years ago on the AT, so it's really cleared out, and you can get a beautiful sunset right over Lake Chatug, which is right where Hiawassee is. Anybody on the AT will know Hiawassee. But yeah, so you overlook the lake and get a good sunset, good fire. I'm going to say you get a good fire everywhere, because that's my thing.
It sounds gorgeous. It sounds like that is a tough experience to beat right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's partially why we do it all the time, because it's, a little two-nighter. You take a long weekend, and most of us, like, that's what we have right now. It's just a long weekend.
Right. Okay. And then you were planning on doing a complete thru hike of the AT in 2024. And then once again, life comes in and gets in the way.
Man, it's funny because I swear every time I bring it up, I'm like, hey, I think this might be a good time to, try another thru hike, and baby number 2 on the way. Maybe I'm just bad at timing things.
Yeah, there is a cause to that,
Elaborate, please.
Well,
you're the experienced girl dad.
Birds and the bees, right? So if you're planning a thru hike, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you got a good point there.
Yeah, or you may, with your persistence, you may end up with 6-7 kids before you actually get out there and get on that thru hike.
Or maybe I just don't tell anybody about the thru hike, and I just be like, see ya.
There you go. So when is the due date for baby number 2?
October 8th.
Okay.
Yep,
yeah,
another girl.
Another girl. Congratulations. Girl
Appreciate
dad.
You.
Yep. Got 2 girls myself and a son in the middle. So she's going to have, not she, but the 2 of you are going to have 2 little ones at a very young age here for them. And again, not very good timing to go on a thru hike and leave Jessica by herself with her hands full. So I appreciate you.
Rebecca.
And commend you. I'm sorry. What did I say? Jessica?
You said Jessica, which is funny. That's her best friend.
Rebecca. There's similar consonants and sounds there. Sorry.
All good.
My apologies to Rebecca.
She'll listen and she'll.
Yeah. So my commendation to you on, taking your responsibilities serious and being there for the family. That's great.
Yeah. Like I said, the trail's still going to be there. That's
right. So, I'm almost scared to ask you, what, if it doesn't work out in 2024, which it's not going to, is it 2025?
Nope. No promises.
No promises. We'll see what happens.
25, okay. 26, I think it'd be cool to do it in 25 because that would be 10 years from the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But, the trail's there.
That's right. How about any shorter thru hikes that you can do, like maybe the Long Trail or maybe the Colorado Trail?
Yeah, so I've actually been thinking about the Long Trail a lot. That's a good option, 270 miles. There's another trail in New York, close to where I'm from, the lake, what is it called? Northville Placid Trail. It goes from Northville to Lake Placid.
Okay.
It's, I want to say just over 100 miles, right around 100 miles. Benton McKay Trail's down this way in Georgia, North Carolina, whatnot. That's another one I'd like to do. But there's so many trails that can be done. John Muir Trail, that's always on the bucket list for everybody. But
yeah,
the Wonderland Trail is one that me and my buddies have been looking at. 90 miles around Mount Rainier. I could go on and on about the trails I want to do, even the shorter ones.
Yeah. With a young family, it's tough to take 4, 5, 6 months to go do something like the AT or the PCT, but lots of options out there that are much shorter, and you still be a thru hiker.
For sure.
Yep. All right. Well, Inferno, you know where we are?
Hike and hack.
Hiking hacks.
That's right. You're a regular listener. It's time for Hiking Hacks, and that is where you get to share some outdoor trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So what do you have for us? Did you just put a sheet of paper? She's got it written down.
I'm a notes guy, man.
Nice.
I like to wing it, but I also like to be a little bit prepared.
There you go.
I like to be prepared, but then half the time it doesn't go as planned, as we've talked about.
That's right. But this, you could
Um,
guarantee that I was going to ask about hiking hacks. So it worked out in this instance.
of course, of course. So I've thought about this every time I listen to, your podcast, and I was like, there's three things that you do when you're on trail, right? You walk, you eat, and you sleep. So take care of your feet, eat good, and sleep well. I know, like I've talked about my pillow, like sleep is my number one thing. I think if I don't have a good night's sleep, I'm just, my back hurts or my hips are in pain or I'm trying to walk and I'm tired and groggy. But like if I get a good night's rest, I'm up and ready to go. So really do what you can to invest in sleeping, getting good sleep. If that means, a blow up sleeping pad versus not, or, if you sleep better in a hammock, go ahead, go for the hammock. Like do what you can to get the best rest you can, in my opinion, because a good night's rest means you're going to feel better the next day for your hiking.
Excellent advice. I mean, you nailed it right on the head. That's what you're doing out there. And you got to make sure that you are paying attention to those three areas.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. All right. So there you have it. We are just about done here. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Inferno. Want to thank him for joining us this week. Josh, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
So Instagram, this guy hikes. That's like where I post all my hiking stuff. I try to post to it as much as I can every time I go on an adventure. That's pretty much it, really. Instagram.
Okay. This guy hikes.
Yep.
Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at hikertrashradio@gmail.com.
Off the beaten path.
Now, unfortunately, we can't always be on the trail, as Josh can attest to. And when we're not, we need to find a way to get our adventure fix. So Inferno, I'm going to ask you to share some outdoor adventure media besides Into the Wild with our listeners to help them get by. This could be a book, a movie, or a documentary. We call this segment Off the Beaten Path. What do you have?
Let's see. Can I shout out another podcast?
Sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're all brethren out here.
Yeah. Backpacker Radio is a big one that I listen to. Appalachian Trials is written by Zach Davis, Badger on Trail, and that's his podcast. I listen to that thing just as much as I listen to you. They have a website, thetrek.co. It's awesome. A lot of good resources for PCT, CDT, AT hikers, even day hikers, section hikers, whatnot. And then one more, the Shill Brothers on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with them. That
sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. SCHILL, Shill Brothers. They have a lot of good gear reviews. I've learned a lot from them. They get to test and trial out stuff, so it's cool to see, what they're checking out. If I want to go ahead and check it out myself or whatnot, but they have some good stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm excited because in my conversation with Prof the other day, he said that he was at Trail Days and he was talking to Badger, and the subject of podcasts came up, and Prof mentioned my podcast, which at the time was John Freaking Muir Pod, and Badger admitted that he had heard a lot of good things about my podcast, but he was wondering about the name. And then like a week after that conversation, just out of coincidence, I decided to rebrand to Hiker Trash Radio. So you listen to Backpacker Radio, and now you also listen to Hiker Trash Radio. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are my go-tos.
I'm just excited that Badger knew who I was or had heard something about me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. All right.
Have we not asked you?
And before we wrap things up, just one more segment, as you know, called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Us About? What do we miss tonight?
Oh, man. I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot of good stuff, man. I really appreciate you having me out here on the pod. I think it's really cool that you had me out here, even though I'm not a thru hiker. I feel like for the most part, every backpacking podcast or whatnot I listen to is all about like, hey, this person thru hiked this, or this person did this, or this, all these crazy awesome things that the normal people don't always get to do. So I really appreciate you having a normal guy who is an aspiring thru hiker on the pod. I feel like that's probably 90+% of the people who are listening.
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is the majority of folks out there have not done a thru hike and have not done the Calendar Triple Crown or the Barkley Marathons, or but it is this is a podcast about people and their stories, and everybody has a story. And I appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
I really appreciate you having me.
Okay. All right. We are finished, Josh. Thank you for coming on the podcast, and we wish you the very best in your future adventures and your adventures in fatherhood. That's very exciting as well. And we hope that you'll consider coming back at some future point and sharing some more stories with us.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be great.
Okay. As we close up today, do you have any shout outs to friends and family, Inferno?
I feel like I've shouted out a lot of people on this podcast today. So,
yeah, not only Rebecca, but Jessica as well.
Oh, yeah, Jessica. Yes, yeah.
I think that was me that shouted her out. So,
yeah, you did. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, okay.
I just feel like everybody I've wanted to shout out, I did. So,
okay.
I appreciate you.
Very good. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if your Achilles is hurting and you forgot your pillow at home. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.